Hello, everyone. It's Royce here, and I want to welcome each and every one of you to the Royce in the House YouTube channel. We've got 350 plus videos. You can come and watch them anytime you'd like. It doesn't cost you a thing to come and watch them. Appreciate you being here tonight. We're going to have a fun show tonight. We're going to be talking about the one and only Eric Clapton and his career. And I'm really looking forward to this because I've loved Eric Clapton since I think 15 years old, maybe even younger than that. Goes all the way back to the British invasion with the Yardbirds and things like that. Now, I've been a fan of Eric Clapton my whole life, and I've accumulated a fair amount of his stuff too. But anyway, what I want to say is do me a favor. There's a thumbs up button, a like button. Please hit that like button. As I said before, it doesn't cost anything, but what it does, it lets the algorithm know that people are enjoying the show. And when new people come onto YouTube and they're searching for something to watch, we have a really good chance of being presented to them as something to watch, along with some other things. They have to make decisions what they want to watch. But it helps the show to grow. So all of these things like hitting that like button are huge. And tonight, if you enjoy the content and you're not already a subscriber, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you're sure to get a notification before the next show comes on. Okay, thanks, folks.
And we're just folks over here. You know, we're just folks. A lot of what goes on here at Royce's show is just friends, almost to the point of family. Okay,
that's exactly right.
And
Michael.
Everybody's
exactly right.
You know, I don't recall ever seeing a really negative comment.
No,
you know, and Royce has never had to say, except for to tell me to watch my certain F bombs. And he, you know, he was right to do that because, you know, this is a family-friendly show, folks.
Yeah, it is.
You know, you hit that subscribe and you get notified. And if it's not your cup of tea, I don't care about Eric Clapton or, oh, he's going to talk about Taylor Swift. You know,
no, he's
that's
not.
fine. But, you know, I can guarantee you on any given month, you're going to get at least 4 streams and probably that many other special in the between the week that Royce does so excellent. You're gonna, you know, we'll find something that'll interest
could be anywhere
you know?
from 4 to 8. You know, maybe with an average of closer to 6. But anyway, so we're going to get into Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton was in approximately 9 bands. There was a few lesser bands that most people don't know about, like the Roosters and Casey Jones and the Engineers, things like that. He didn't really hit it big until he joined the Yardbirds. And the Yardbirds were one of my favorite British invasion bands. Well, for 3 reasons. Eric Clapton, then Jeff Beck, and then Jimmy Page. The latter 2 played together, okay?
Hallowed be thy names.
Oh, my God. We're talking about 3 rock gods all playing for the same band. Now, you know, this is what made Eric famous, was playing in the Yardbirds. This is what made him a sought-after blues musician, sought-after guitarist extraordinaire. He was playing for the Yardbirds. But Eric didn't want to stay in the Yardbirds. And the reason for that is the Yardbirds were taking a turn, getting away from the blues-based rock that most of the British invasion brought with them, whereas we in the States weren't listening to the blues. They were loving our American blues over in England. And all of those bands that were coming over, whether it was Eric Burdon and the Animals, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Yardbirds, they all considered themselves blues-based rock, and they all loved the blues. Countless stories out there about, you know, Keith Richards, Mick Jagger running into each other. One of them's got a couple of blues albums from America, and they spend the next few days listening to them together. But they loved the American blues, and they really, you know, it was a double-edged sword. They copied a lot of the American blues music, but at the same time, they brought the American blues that rose their stature in America to where everybody starting to get into them now. So everybody benefited. The rock bands that were playing the blues songs, some of them without permission, and then the blues artists, they all benefited. They all benefited because the blues were starting to blow up because of the British invasion.
A lot of those blues artists, Royce, had resurrected careers in the late 60s
Right,
and
right.
well into the early 80s, even for some of them.
Yeah, well,
So
yeah.
now that doesn't, yeah, that doesn't
Yeah,
make it
yeah.
right, you know.
No.
But you know, there wasn't a. It was such a common practice in those days
No, it
to kind of,
really was.
yeah, that even the original blues artists themselves, for the most part, didn't consider it really stealing.
I
You
know,
know,
especially since a lot of it was already 10, 15, some even 20 years old. You
and
know?
half of their songs that they would claim got stolen were based on songs that they ripped off. I get a video
borrowed.
on that.
Exactly. That's exactly
But
right.
you know what? Before we get past the Yardbirds here with Eric, Royce, I did want to bring up one thing. He joined in 1963.
63.
He was born in 1945. He was 18 years old.
No, that's exactly right. He was very
when he
young.
joined them. And by the time he was 20, he was gone. But during those 2 years, you see, 90% of that 2 years, they got, I forget the name of the venue, but it was the venue that the Rolling Stones had prior to really hitting it big. And they continued to play there when they were big, but they were just too big to play there. And it was the Yardbirds that took their spot. They got that. And so they were the hum of London, right?
Yes.
Now, when the Yardbirds recorded the hit For Your Love, that none of them wrote, that was the last straw for Eric. And he quit. The second they released that, I always disagreed with him on that because, you know, a lot of his problems with the Yardbirds was they were too popish. I want to stay blues and everything. And yet when you listen to albums like, you know, what was it? 861, 832, 495, Ocean Boulevard.
No, I think I have it here. Yeah.
Right. That's just, I mean, you know, there for about 10 years. And they're great stuff. They're great songs. But he was Mr. Pop, icky, sticky, sweet as candy, you know. And that's Jasmine.
Michael,
she looks all right.
I was going to say the exact same thing. All the reasons he left the Yardbirds, he did the same thing later for commercial success. Got the more poppy stuff and got away from the blues.
So I'm wondering if it was, because we are talking about, folks, we're talking about rock's greatest gypsy. All right.
Oh yeah.
He is the first gypsy of Athenian mythology almost. You know,
Betty and I were thinking about the best way to describe that, because he just you talk about itchy feet. He was constantly bailing every chance he got. And,
and part of the problem was, you know, I mean, you know, when he was born, his dad went off to war, and then he was done with his service, and he moved back to Canada and had nothing to do with him. And for the rest of his childhood, he thought that his maternal grandmother was his mother, and that his mother was his older sister. Okay. Now think about this. Now, the only other people in rock and roll that have this kind of mythology, almost to this identicalness. All right. Paul McCartney lost his mother, right? He was raised by a father that, like my mom who raised me, my dad wasn't around, right? She had to get tough. She had to be way more butch in her approach to raising 4 boys and 1 girl than was comfortable for her. And I'm sure that McCartney's dad had to kind of almost play both roles. This was a mix-up for him. John Lennon didn't have his dad, just like Eric, and later, as a teenager, didn't have his mother. These kinds of tragedies, and it doesn't make them special. Many of us here tonight have lost we have those tragedies in our lives. All right, I
Absolutely.
know that, especially I know that about Royce. Royce knows that about me. Tragedy is is inevitable if you're a human being. But when you face tragedies that young, as a
Oh yeah.
male, and
Well,
in all cases lacking a real strong male um, guide, uh, that's part of his genius too, Roy. So I just want to
okay.
bring that up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me show a couple of things now.
Oh yeah.
I've got a couple of Yardbirds albums. The first one is London 1963 when Clapton first joined them.
Mm.
It was the Yardbirds and the Blues Breakers 63 through 66. And he didn't stay with the Blues Breakers very long and came back again. But this is 63 first recordings. And down below, and I'll point that when I turn it around, Sonny Boy Williamson and the Yardbirds with Eric Clapton. Sonny Boy Williamson and the Yardbirds, right down here.
Oh yeah.
Sonny Boy Williamson and the Yardbirds with Eric Clapton. So
Wow.
this was the first recordings. 1963 says right up here, the first recordings. So I wanted to show that, but the next one I want to show you now, this was really interesting. My wife and I were doing a home inspection for a woman whose home was for the buyer of the woman's home that we were inspecting. And we were doing an inspection for them, and the house, you had to turn sideways to walk through it. It was total hoarder. I had no idea how she was going to get all that stuff out of there because she didn't want to get rid of any of it. So anyway, make a long story short, I finally got around to asking her, because she was trying to get rid of some things. Finally got around to asking her, you don't have any vinyl records, do you? She goes, oh, you should have been here last week. I gave boxes of them away. And I was like, fuck. And so finally she goes, oh, I have one. And she goes and gets this. And it's the Yardbirds Golden Eggs. And what this is and what makes it really significant is it was kind of an unauthorized bootleg. Okay. But the reason I really want to show it, and I'm going to turn around and show you right now. But let me work the chat.
That's all right, Royce. I'm just over here drooling.
Yeah, no, this one is rare. Although when I bring it up, people say, "Oh yeah, that's a good album." Okay, this is what's amazing about this album. Right down here is a picture of Eric Clapton. Above him are the rest of the people that are usually in their Yardbirds. Like you got, you got Chris Drake, Keith Relf, the singer, Jim McCartney, and Paul Samwell. Okay, but now right here is Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page. Ooh. And it's like, well, why is Eric Clapton here and them here when they never played together? Well, this album was a bootleg compilation, and they're all on it. Okay.
Good.
But what I love about this, and I'm going to have to get closer to the camera to make this show. Well, maybe I'll just make myself bigger. That could possibly help.
That would work.
If I can remember how to,
Is that is that an easily found album, Royce?
This is the only time I've ever seen it was when this lady gave it to me. But I got to show you this. Okay, so right here is Eric Clapton. Now I want you to follow this black line. It goes up, turns, comes back down.
Oh, I love this.
And that's John Mayall and the Blues Breakers.
Yep.
John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. Now it goes down to the next dot. Eric Clapton and the Powerhouse includes Stevie Winwood and Paul Jones. Okay. Then it goes down to the corner and it says Cream, 1967, Cream. And then it makes a turn and it goes up and it says Mothers of Invention session work. How badass is that? Then it goes a little further and it goes down and it says Aretha Franklin, 1968 session work. Okay.
Wow.
Then it continues on down and it says Plastic Ono Band, 1969. He played for the Plastic Ono Band. Goes down. Well,
he was in it. That's one of his bands. All right.
Yeah. So it goes down a little further. You got Delaney Bonnie with Friends in 1970. Then it bumps up to George Harrison sessions. Then it bumps back down to solo albums. Then goes straight out to the end to Derek and the Dominos. Now, how badass is that? It does the same thing with everybody. It does Beck. It does Page. It does all the members, regular members here. And
Yeah.
man, when I saw that, I just fell in love with this.
Yeah.
This was pristine, and the reason she kind of still had this one, she had a flood in the house, and this is all water damage across the bottom of the album cover. So anyway,
yeah, but with that artwork, just don't bring that up ever again. It looks like part of the artwork practically.
It does.
No, I love that I'm going to check and see if I can find it.
Man, you won't be disappointed, Michael.
What's the name of it again?
Okay, Golden Eggs.
Golden Eggs. All right.
Microphone here. Golden Eggs. Yeah. Okay.
That looks like a fun album and package to have. Okay. That's a cover that you read while you listen to it, man.
No, that's exactly right. Just like we've talked about before. I also want to throw something else in. Okay. Now, Eric Clapton was ranked number two best guitarist in the world by Rolling Stone magazine. Now, this isn't like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with numbnuts. This is to give you an idea. Okay, I just want to show you a couple of things here. Okay, they ranked Jimi Hendrix as number one. Waiting for Michael's comment. Okay.
Oh, hey, listen, Royce. Jimi Hendrix. I fault nobody for ranking Jimi Hendrix number one. I respect that ideology, and he's very high on my list. He's just not my number one.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Here's Eric Clapton listed as number two of 100. Now, this isn't like Jan Wiener, doing stupid things. I'm going to tell you something. There's one more thing I have to show you. The voters. Who voted for these people and who ranked them? How did they get ranked? I just got to read you a couple of these names because it'll blow your mind. These aren't small time people, and they're not right. They're not. These are real musicians. I mean, we have.
Hey, Royce, you know what you're doing now?
What's that?
As you're talking, just keep in mind you're writing your next video for midweek right here.
Right.
Just keep that in mind, brother.
Okay, we've got Richie Blackmore voted. Mm-hmm. Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains voted.
Oh God!
No, I'm saying that Melissa Etheridge, Kirk Hammett from Metallica. So, like I said, these weren't slouches that just didn't know what they were talking about. Most of these people I'm reading to you are on the list also.
Well, these would be considered experts from the people you've read so far.
That's what I'm talking about. Niles Lofgren.
So I would respect a list from them.
From the E Street Band, Mick Mars from Motley Crue, Brian May from Queen, Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. I mean, this is the caliber of people that voted. Okay.
Well, give us the first top 10. Give us the top 10 here.
Okay, I'll be happy.
Because as we talk about Eric Clapton tonight, folks, why are we talking so much about Eric when now listen to what Royce reads off when these people were around?
This is a really cool magazine because they list them and they talk about their best songs too. But I'll go back to the front where we've got the list. Okay, so we had Jimi Hendrix, we have Eric Clapton, okay. They got ranked number 3, Jimmy Page.
My number one choice, but very well placed. Yep. I have no trouble with the list so far.
Now, people may not agree with this, but Keith Richards is number 4.
Oh, God, no, give me a break. No way. He wouldn't even be in my top 20.
I hear you. Okay, well, here's one that will be. Jeff Beck, number 5. God.
Hallowed be his name. I love him.
Yes.
Right.
He's in my top 5 as well.
BB.
Yes.
The man who could say more with one bend of a note than Eric could say with 48 notes.
Well, you know what?
And Eric would admit to that.
I actually did this list on a show one night, and I only went through 50 and came back and did 50 more on another one.
Yeah.
Chuck Berry at 7.
He belongs in the top 100 because of his duck walk. He did create some classic riffs that are used to this very day. So, but not
Eddie
this
Van
high.
Halen. Eddie Van Halen 8.
Yeah, that's about where he would be on my list too, with tons of respect.
Dwayne Allman 9.
Oh yeah. Very well placed.
Okay, so and number 10, and we'll see what the reaction is to this one. Pete Townsend, The Who.
Oh God, overrated rhythm guitarist.
Okay, well that's
Royce and I were just talking about, and this is Eric Clapton related, folks. Last week when we came up with the idea of let's do this show. I didn't know he was going to do it this week, but we were going to do it in the future, and it was that when when Pete Townsend saw Jimi Hendrix play live, it's purported that he went to Eric Clapton and said, "How does it feel to be out of a job? We're done." And for me, and Royce knows that I think, what the hell? What kind of ego is that? He is a great songwriter, great performer, great rhythm guitarist, and a rudimentary lead guitarist at best. And he dares to go up to Eric Clapton. I have mad respect for Pete Townsend, but
there's multiple related stories like that. There's another story. Someone took Eric Clapton to the show to see Jimi Hendrix the very first time, where he was playing in England, and the guy said when they went backstage, Eric was trying to light a cigarette and his hand was shaking, and he looks up and he goes, "You didn't tell me he was that good."
Well, I do know that he was in Clapton was in one audience, and Hendrix's guitar was out of tune, and he asked, "Is Eric in the house? I need somebody to come up and tune my guitar." He didn't respond, but what a classic line,
Yeah, no, hey, I want everyone to know that we've been joined by
Novice
Nick, and anybody else. I just put a link up. There's a
Come
link
on
available
up,
if you want to join the show. We haven't seen you in a while, Nick.
We've
got Star Trekker. Hey, buddy, where you been?
All right.
Billy Gibbons is on the list. I'm not sure how high he is, but I think he's in the mid-20s somewhere. I'll look that up later. So anyway, good to see you here, Star Trekker. Dan Goucher's here. The Music Sanctuary's here. Who's Chris Elliott? No. Steve Robertson's here. Our buddy Eric Schultz is here, of course.
I love what James is doing. I can't see the chat, but James has set up all along that we've been talking. James has been talking to the chat. That's what I was talking about earlier. Folks, join up because it's more of a just family friendly thing. We don't get into a lot politics.
That's exactly right. We're just here. No, politics are the kiss of death. We don't do it.
No
politics. The 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
I don't care what your politics are. I don't. Too many people.
This is about music.
Have really gotten divided over that stuff, and it's just unnecessary.
I won't even touch a channel that goes.
Okay. No, I won't either. Okay, so anyway, put the link up again. Novice Nick, Star Trekker, Dan, Music Sanctuary, Eric, anybody, any one of you guys want to Dr. Rick, you guys want to, any one of you want to jump on, or two of you? My show can hold 10 people.
I don't think we've ever had. I think at one time we had like 8, right?
Right.
One night we had Groovy Lisa, and Dusty Spins, and I wasn't scheduled on that night because Kimberly was in the hospital, and but she had returned 2 or 3 days, and I joined you from a living room, or one of the living rooms here, and so. We had about 7 or 8 people up that night, but generally we get 5 or 6 at the most, but come on up.
Well, okay. So please do. So when Clapton finally left the Blues Breakers, he went straight to Cream. He was part of putting that band together with Ginger Baker and Jack Bruce. And I tell you what, that is one of my all-time favorite bands. and it was one of 2 8 tracks I bought. The first 2 8 tracks I bought, one was Creamed Israeli Gears. I'd been hearing it and I've been losing my mind over it. And I just got through putting a stereo in my little 55 Chevy. So I went down to the music store and I bought the Creamed Israeli Gears and I bought Creedence Clearwater Bayou Country. And definitely, what happened to Chris? Hey, you're back. Good.
I don't know. For what I
Yeah, I blurted out earlier too. Nothing on my end.
Yeah, so at least with the Cream, he stayed a little while. Okay, he was there for a while, and let's see.
That was a band. They actually had four full albums.
They disbanded in '68. So I've got to do this next. Okay, I've got to show. Well, we already talked about the Blues Breakers, how we went straight there from the Yardbirds. Okay, and this is the Blues Breakers. Then it says John Mayall with Eric Clapton. Let me get out of that glare from the ring light. Okay, great album. I love this album. I listened to it twice last week, and I tell you what, the other John Mayall album I listened to was let's see, the one with Room to Move. It's Something Point. Anyway, it's I may even like it better than the Blues Breakers one.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's amazing. So I just want to show a couple of Cream albums. I wish this was my original, but it's not. So I love these songs. They're so cool and psychedelic, and the guitar playing and the singing, Jack Bruce's voice, the drumming, Ginger Breaker. I mean, these songs just they had an effect on me the first time I heard them. You know what? And that effect has never gone away. I still feel the same way about them. Strange Brew. I mean, when have you heard a song like Strange Brew? Sunshine of Your Love, World of Pain, Dance the Night Away, Blue Condition, Side 2, Tales of Brave Ulysses. Who sings about that? Tales of Brave Ulysses.
Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, I don't know if I can pronounce this one. SWLABR, Slobber. Slobber? Wobbler. We're Going Wrong, Outside Woman Blues, Take It Back, and Mother's Lament. Okay, so that's just Disraeli Gears. Then we have Wheels of Fire.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's the one I
great that's the one. Yeah, that's the one you were talking about. And the side 2 was live from the Fillmore East side.
Right.
2. So that's what makes this. That's what makes this an amazing album. You've got the studio work, and you've got my favorite venue, Fillmore East.
And I love that cover. I love good black and white hand-drawn art. Just love it.
It's awesome. Then you have the Best of Cream.
Yep.
The Best of Cream. So that's a nice compilation there. And last but not least, they were all tasked with writing a song for this one. And this is when Eric Clapton went and called in a favor from his good buddy George Harrison to write a song together. And so they wrote the song together with the drunken Ringo in the room, who kept making funny comments, and they'd use him in the, I think Ringo or one of them walked over and looked at the name of the song upside down and go, "Oh, I see you got a name already, Badge." And it was actually Bridge, but he was looking at it upside down and drunk. And so they said they like it. They changed it to, they were making fun about how easy it was for them to hit a hit song. They were laughing.
When you tell that tale before, Royce, I always wondered if maybe what he saw was not even the title they had, but just that little indent. I'm a songwriter, and I always write chorus, and then I write out my chorus, and then bridge, and then I write out my bridge. I'm wondering if maybe that's what Ringo actually saw.
But here's that song right here, Badge, that they say in the story anyway that it started out as bridge. Ringo read it wrong. There's some other parts of the song where they got stuck and Ringo blurted something out and they go, "That's it," and they wrote it down and used it in the song. So anyway, this was good, and this was written by basically Eric Clapton and George Harrison. Okay, in payback for playing "Slide On While My Guitar Gently Weeps" for George Harrison.
I love the track.
Yeah, so they did that for one another for those reasons. Okay, so shortly after, I'm a big fan of the Cream. Like I said, I've had these albums one way or another, whether it was 8 tracks, cassettes, CDs, vinyl, and I've got vinyl. I've got vinyl as well as I've got Disraeli Gears on a CD that's got all the cuts, all the songs. It's called a rarities, a collector's edition rarities. They're all in mono, and then they're all in stereo, all in the same CD, all the same songs, plus some extra songs that aren't on the album. And I absolutely love that kind of stuff. And I've really enjoyed this band, these songs. And when I pop them in the radio, they don't go, or in the car outside, put them in the CD player. We don't listen to 3 or 4 songs and pull it back out and put Michael Jackson in. That we'll be fighting over when I have to take it out. It'll stay for days, and if it's in my own truck, well, mostly solo, it may sit in there for weeks, and I listen to it every single day, like I do some of the other stuff that I love. So anyway, right after that, well, the ink was drying on that last cover. They formed Blind Faith. And a couple of changes. You still had Eric Clapton and Ginger Baker, but you also had one of my favorites, Stevie Winwood.
Stevie Winwood,
and Rick Gretsch.
Gretsch,
yeah. Now there's another version of this album, and I've almost bought it. It's kind of I won't say band, but it's a 13-year-old prostitute naked from the chest up, holding, I don't know, like a hood ornament, like an airplane off a car or something. And
John, I'll buy it, because that's the freaking cover, folks, that we all grew up with. And once again, like Houses of the Holy, big effing deal. All right. It was a different time, and bare-breasted young whatever it's called, women abounded at rock concerts, at parks, at the beach, and get over it. Jesus.
Well, I heard it was Steve Winwood's daughter.
No, really?
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Well, those
are the same weirdos that criticize Robert Plant in The Song Remains the Same film when it shows his children naked in the film. If that insults you, please go back to your hut and stay there.
Absolutely. Part of that is the difference between Europe and America. We're a lot more prudish here, based on
but not back then, baby. We weren't. Our parents were, and a lot of us turned into that. Well, and I'm a hell of a lot more conservative than I was when I was 15. But the good stuff that came out of that more left-wing approach to life was to dare to dream and not make a big freaking deal of nudity and women breastfeeding their children in public. It was acceptable for a short period of time, and that's my norm. Okay, and so I wasn't sitting there drooling with hobnail boots.
Yeah, James Watson is saying that she wasn't a prostitute; she was just someone the photographer knew. Okay, well, I've read.
I love that cover.
But, you read a lot of different things, and very seldom are they the same.
Well, that cover goes in the same category as Houses of the Holy or Nevermind.
Yeah, that's right. Well, eventually,
very good.
Eventually, they had to cover it up with black paper in London too when they were selling it.
Yeah.
And, anyway.
Or the Scorpions.
I heard she was a prostitute.
All I know is every record store I went to many times a week back then. Even on days I couldn't afford a record, I wanted to go see. And maybe I could prop one behind Lawrence Welk that wasn't selling. Well, it was guerrilla warfare in those days. And I'll tell you, the only cover I ever saw was that one with the girl holding the airplane. Yeah. And I was more interested in why is she holding an airplane? What does that signify?
Well, guys, I got to tell you, one of these 2 albums, my older brother, 9 years my senior, bought me for my 16th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Drove out from Las Vegas and gave it to me for my birthday. He goes, "You got to hear this," because we've been listening to things like Sergeant Pepper's and
Yeah.
the Cream and different bands at his house whenever we'd go out there, and usually we'd hitchhike out there because we weren't old enough
That's
to drive.
strike two, Royce.
Uh,
The Cream.
okay, so
Oh, good catch, Michael.
yeah. So anyway, getting back on track here. We've got
Eric.
a lot of talk.
Wait a
about.
minute. I couldn't read Eric's comment.
Okay, sorry. The older
Probably
generation probably fainted at the sight of unfinished music. Two Virgins LP cover. Yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, Elvis had a hard time in his first Las Vegas residency because the crowd was so conservative back then. They didn't like him swaying his hips instead. They were kind of disgusted. And it actually didn't go over very well. Well, after a number of years, when he came back to his second residency, he sold out every single night, and it was huge.
Yeah.
And I was living there at the time, and my older brother that bought me that album I just showed you, him and his wife went and saw Elvis. And, you know, I was into other things like the album he bought me, you know, and Elvis was, even though I'd been a fan, we grew up with Elvis. Elvis was always in our house. You know, my dad would even buy Elvis albums. He was in the country. So Elvis was always there, and we all liked him. And Dad took us to see all the Elvis movies at the drive-in theater. And he would stuff as many of our friends in the cars he could get in. And we'd all go see all the Elvis movies, and we loved Elvis. But for some reason, at that age, at about 15, I wasn't that excited to go see him in concert. Now, I wished I had. You know, he died at 47 years
Hi, Lisa.
old. And I think we're coming up on the 50th or 52nd anniversary of him dying.
You know, we should address something. You know, first of all, you know, this thing about gyrating hips and what's not acceptable in album covers, especially rock, and what should be in lyrics, and you know, should John have used the F word on his greatest album post Beatles, which was, in my opinion, the Plastic Ono Band, man. I listen to the whole thing. I don't ever pick a song. I just put it on. And here's the thing. Rock and roll is a term from blues, and the black community, they be rocking and rolling all night long. In other words, it's having sex. It is based on sex. Rock and roll, that is its blues-based direction it comes from. And so a sexual energy has always been part of what rock and roll is all about. And I'm not talking about a deviant, necessarily sexual energy. A lot of right-wing Christians back in the day is that devil music, rock and roll. I've never thought of it that way. There can be dangerous paths with this. Hi, Nick.
Hey, everybody. I want to introduce.
It's always been based on sex, folks.
I want to introduce Novice Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, gentlemen.
Hey, Nick. Good to see you.
everybody.
Good to see you, brother.
Hey,
I'm glad you hopped on the show, man.
I am too.
It's been a minute. I was a little tied up doing a few things, but I'm glad
happens,
I caught y'all before.
I'll be sitting here with no shirt, messed up hair, and underwear, and somebody go, "Hey, Royce, I'll send you a link." I'm like, "What?"
Well, that's just too much visual weight. Let me scrub that.
Well, it was a slight exaggeration as well.
Yeah, I know. I love the part about Townsend. That was really good, Michael.
Well, I have, you know, Nick, I'm a major Townsend fan. I'm a major Who fan.
I know you are.
But you also look at reality.
Yeah, you know, I've called out Paul McCartney how many times, and he's got to be, you know, it was John and Paul who were my two favorite heroes, and then when John was no longer around, it's been Paul. You know, I've been a lifelong fan, and when he screws up or I don't agree with something, you know, I'm going to just say it. But I'm still a major fan. I'll weep the day he passes if I'm still on this mortal coil. But he doesn't get a free pass, so
no.
You know when you can't.
Why should Pete?
when you can't tell a friend, hey, you got a speck in your eye, and expect the same back, that kind of honesty, which translates is actually love,
Right.
that then what's the world about then if you can't
Yeah.
do that? So
Yeah.
it also shows that you're consistent.
And
If
I'll
anything,
say it again. I don't say it often here, but on my show, I tag off every single video almost with a robotic response, changing up the word order. But I always say, I'm Michael Nolan. This is the bottom line. And when I say the bottom line, folks, I go into this is my bottom line, but the real bottom line of my channel is in the comments. So when you guys start engaging, that's what the channel's all about, is what people, and I get tons of people going, you are really so wrong on this one, Michael.
On this one,
And
you are
it's
wrong,
cool.
Michael.
It's like water off my back. I don't take offense at it.
Right.
I'm just a dumb guy in 2/3 of his bedroom converted into a studio doing videos. What the hell do I know?
The moment you close off other voices and opinions into things you love, you've closed off most of the world, and you're self-indulgent.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me show this now, folks.
Excellent.
Let me show this. Okay, so 69, Blind Faith only did one album. I don't know why. I thought they were a great band. I really enjoy them, and they only did one album. And in 70, Eric came out with Derek and the Dominoes, an absolute masterpiece. Oh my
Yes.
God!
Yes,
That's all.
have it.
Songs on this are just,
That's calling it a masterpiece is almost an understatement, in my opinion.
it's almost an
Yeah.
insult. Yeah,
Yeah.
And hey,
Hey,
Royce,
yeah.
there was going to be another Derek and the Dominoes album. They started recording one, and then Dwayne Allman died, and that it just kind of sat on the shelf since.
So, okay. Hey, Groovy Lisa, are you talking about John Lennon's Lost Weekend with May Pang in L.A. that lasted 2 years? Just curious. Anyway, so yeah, no, I hear you, Chris. I hear you. I had heard a little bit about that before, but not a whole lot. When Paul dies, okay, more for the next 6 months. Oh yeah, totally.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So anyway, I've got to read. These songs are so iconic. I can't let this go. Okay, I've got a Bell Bottom Blues. Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out, like a blues staple, right?
Oh,
Keys
God.
of the Highway, another blues staple. I'm just skipping here.
Don't need to skip,
have-
Royce. They're all gold.
Okay,
Every single cut.
tell the truth. Why does love have to be so sad?
Oh God, I love that one. That's like a highlight.
Have
Bell
you ever,
Bottom Blues.
have you ever loved a woman? I love that one too. That's a great song.
Me too.
Okay, all right. Now I really like this song. Everybody's covered it. Jimi Hendrix wrote it. Little Wing. That is a fantastic song. I mean, everybody has covered that.
Everybody back in the day was covering it, and they all did great versions of it.
Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton, everybody liked that song enough to want to cover it. It's Too Late, Layla. Come on, Layla. Thorn Tree in the Garden, and a few that I missed over here. Any Day, I Am Yours, Keep on Growing. Of course, Bell Bottom Blues. I Looked Away. Okay, so this is when I finally found this album. I could not believe it. I found a super clean used version. I couldn't have paid more than $17-18 for it when I bought it. I've had it for a couple of years now, but this is one of those gems like the Blues Breakers with Eric Clapton that I've looked for a really long time, or super sessions, with Al Cooper, Mike Bloomfield, and Stephen Stills. Yeah, I looked for that for probably 3 years, and I knew it was available new. I saw it. It was for sale new, but for some reason I was kind of obsessed with getting a good used, maybe OG,
Well, you know what, Royce? I said understatement, calling it a masterpiece. All those albums are masterpieces. It's just that Layla is a grail, man. Oh, it's a grail.
It is a grail, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
I totally agree. So anybody got any comments all the way up through Derek and the Dominoes? We're moving on to the solo career now.
Now, I have a question. How did he get the name Derek and the Dominos?
Well, because
Because
there was something weird going on. He had fallen in love with Patty Harrison, George Harrison's wife. He wanted to marry her, and ultimately he did wind up marrying her for a while. And, George was out, they were best friends. It was his best friend's wife, but George was out catting around. He's a Beatle. Women are throwing themselves at him. So he wasn't being she was a model. She was a beautiful woman. And Eric fell in love with her, and she kept resisting and didn't want to get together with him. But ultimately, they did get married for a while. So that was his first wife, Patty Boyd Harrison, successful model in the 60s. She inspired his classic album from 1970, Layla and Assorted Love Songs. It was really, that's what this is called. It's Derek and the Dominos. It was almost like Eric was hiding. He was in a really strange place. I don't know how well I can explain it.
Oh, I can. I
Go
can.
ahead.
It's called.
his own name.
No,
He
it's called
he used his own
Camelot.
name. Exactly.
It's called Camelot.
Camouflage.
George is King Arthur. She's Guinevere, and he thought he was freaking Lancelot. No, just watch the movie Camelot and put George Harrison in Richard Harris's place, right? Put Eric Clapton in Frank O'Neill's place, and then grab Patty Boyd and put her in Redgrave's place, and you've got the Beatle sob story right there in front of you, all acted up.
Yep. The thing is, we knew how it ended because the show had already been done.
Yeah, well, ultimately, it really, it was a tragedy. I mean, nothing really long term, if you think about it, except for this masterpiece we're talking about here.
Yeah, this masterpiece.
Really endured. It was a tragic love triangle, is what it was.
And Eric was not wanting to be even almost upfront about who he was and who he was singing about. It was almost like he was shielding all of that, from the public.
Again, we'll make the connection to John Lennon, who didn't feel free to express who he was writing about with Norwegian Wood. Maureen Cleave. Oops, sorry.
Hey, I wanted to say something about what Groovy Lisa's talking about. I covered that in a show. It was called the Hollywood Vampires, and it was the drinking club formed by Alice Cooper that met at the Rainbow Club upstairs in the little attic, and it was only for their use only. And there's even still a sign hanging there that says, the Hollywood Vampires Drinking Club. Before there was a Hollywood Vampires band, no relationship other than Alice Cooper started them. So Hollywood Vampires Drinking Club said President Alice Cooper, Vice President, the Keith Moon. Keith Moon was the vice president.
Oh my God.
You had Harry.
I would have thought he would have been emperor.
They said no. They said that the funnest part of the thing was what Moon was going to show up dressed like. He'd go to all these different costume stores. He might show up as a French maid or the Queen of England.
I've heard
all kinds of wild stuff. And so Harry Nilsson was also a charter member, Nilsson Schmilsson, and he became really tight and was part of the Beatles' inner circle. He was really tight with John Lennon. So whenever Lennon came to town, he would take him. Nilsson would take him over to the Hollywood Vampires Drinking Club, and they call it the Lost Weekend, but it was like 2 years long.
So Royce, let me get this straight. There are three main head officers. Was a guy named Alice, a lunatic, and a guy who had a friend who always wore tampons on his forehead.
Right. Yeah.
Sounds like a great time.
Well, no, and you know what? They even formed a baseball team and were playing charity events and stuff. I mean, they were really into it, and it went on for a long time. So anyway, I did a show on that. I heard about it. I visited. We went to a play down there, Rock of Ages or something, a rock and roll play down on Sunset, and then afterward we went over to the Rainbow Club and heard all about the Hollywood Vampires that held their meetings there. And it was a hell of a lot of fun telling that story. I mean, one time let's see, Harry Nelson and John Lennon went down to the Whiskey A Go Go, and
Yes, he was, Caitlin.
the Smothers Brothers were performing their comedy routine at the Whiskey A Go Go, and John Lennon started just insulting the shit out of him. I think he was even asked to leave. You know, he just got so bad.
Mine too,
But-
Tia Kalina. Mine too. I love that song.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, folks. So, so then we got into Derek and the Dominos around 1970, Layla and other assorted love songs, if I could get that out, and we talked about Patty Boyd. Okay, what is the meaning of the term that's often given to Eric Clapton, Slowhand? Does anybody have an? Okay, novice, go ahead.
Yeah, because when it came time to string his guitar, God, he was awful slow.
Right.
Well, he
right.
wouldn't leave. He wouldn't leave
and-
the stage, and the audience developed a tradition of doing this
A slow clap.
hand
clap.
clap.
Yep,
You know,
that's
right.
That's
just to edge him on and encourage him, and so he
Like,
developed
come on
the
already.
nickname. Yeah, yeah. So
Well,
right out of legend. I mean, wow, that's kind of
Yeah.
a legend, a rock legendary moment. You
There's
know.
two or three slight modifications. Okay, like in the autobiography of Eric Clapton is written in 2007. He says on his guitar, because of all the bending and stuff, he used really light strings, especially, of course, the the high E. And
Yeah, super
sometimes
slinkies.
when he really took off, it was going crazy on the guitar. He might break a couple of strings, you know.
Yeah.
And then when he got to a place where he could pause, he'd pause and start changing them. So anyway, but so that's where it came from, you know, that slow clap while they were waiting for him to get the strings changed, and he's up on stage. You know, why don't they just hand him another guitar? That's what they do today. They do that after every song anyway today.
Yeah.
Guys got
Right, yeah,
everybody's
or
got
halfway
20
through.
20
Well,
yeah,
these were days you didn't have guitar techs. You know,
Yeah.
these were days like the Beatles traveled with two guys, and they
Yeah,
did all
right,
of their
right.
moving and everything. They may have had a backup guitar, you know, with them.
Yeah.
They didn't even have any backup amps. If an amp
Right,
blew,
right.
they went to
Yep.
where emergency places to several cities and got it replaced. Actually, Gretsch may have had a backup or two for them because they were designed specifically for the Shea Stadium concert. They actually got the world's first 100-watt amps, which in
Ooh.
a building is damn freaking loud. But
No,
for Shea Stadium, you know,
They didn't
you
even
might as
make
well be playing a
amplifiers.
30-watter, you know?
They didn't make amplifiers big enough for those stadiums.
Right.
Yeah.
So, matter of fact, there's footage of the Yardbirds. Man, they're eating, smoking. Strings are all over the place. They're not manicured. You know, they're not Brian Epsteinized. That band, you know, that's how they got their start. And as long as they stayed with the blues, I think Eric might, if there was one band that Eric would have stayed with, there might be two out of all of these. One was perhaps Derek and the Dominos, especially considering what Chris just brought up tonight. And I wasn't aware of that. So thank you, Chris. I'll do some research on that. But also, I think the Yardbirds, if they had just stayed true to their, but then you got to go, but then we wouldn't have all those wonderful Yardbird hits and everything. So, you know, it was just going to happen. It was a collision.
Yeah, and you know what? And everybody does that. You know, at first everybody says, "Oh, they're selling out for commercial success," but then everybody wants a piece of commercial success. They're working as hard as anybody else that's getting it.
Right.
But you know, Clapton's mastery of blues form and phrasing, and his rapid runs and emotional vibrato have been widely imitated by other rock guitarist. I mean, it's just people have been copying him from early on, from the late 60s. So anyways, the high energy he put out there, I mean, he was I love watching Eric Clapton play. He's a great guitarist. He's really
he's kept at least the latest videos I've seen of him playing, he's kept his chops up. Probably the only other guitarist from that era, Jeff Beck, and up till the day he died, always had his chops up. But now here, Eric, what is he, 80 now? 81? If
Yeah, I wouldn't be
he's
surprised.
got to be around the same age as the Beatles.
He's
So,
up there. He's up there.
yeah. And the man is still a virtuoso. Yeah, you're not just going to get up there and hear a raspy Paul.
Right. Right. Right.
Although I will say, when you go see Paul, the voice is shot, but he sings in tune. The hits still sound sparkly, and
Yeah.
his musicianship he's still a fine, active musician. He hasn't lost a step there. But Eric Clapton hasn't lost his voice, and if anything, he's even a better guitarist than
You might be
these.
right. I don't know.
Oh no, I've watched him. Man,
No, he's good. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, he's added a lot of jazz influence subtly to his playing, and I think what really turned him into the super master that he is these days is when he went all acoustic there for a couple of years and got back. And
I was going to talk about that in a minute too.
And if you can play it and astound people on an acoustic guitar, baby. Give that man an electric, because then you're going to really see what he can do.
Bob Dylan finally figured that out. But look at James Watson. This is a comment for you, Michael. James Watson talking about Motley Crue doesn't have to worry about broken strings because the backing track don't break strings. I knew you'd love that. I was saving it for you. Caitlin Stoddard, our own Caitlin Stoddard. Everybody go to Caitlin Stoddard's show and check her out and subscribe. We have a lot of fun at Caitlin's show. And we go back a long way. She's family.
Oh, Dan she's Johnson. A sweetheart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And she's got a good show, too. I mean, yeah.
Speaking Royce, can I get in for a second?
Yeah.
I got something here from 1968. It's,
good.
It's a bunch of Eric Clapton recordings with Jimmy Page.
Really?
It's on a Jimmy Page compilation I have. It's called
Oh, wow, look at that.
But it's got songs from 1968. It's with Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page. One song called Choker, Freight Loader, Miles Road, Dragging My Tail, that's a good one. And then Snake Drive, West Coast Idea, Tribute to Elmore James. And it just, it was session work that they ended up working on together. Potentially
that's
could have been a
cool.
super group with those two.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally.
And that was back in 68, even before Zeppelin. So.
Yeah.
Even before Zeppelin. Wow. Yeah.
Well, it was Eric that suggested Jimmy as his replacement. And Jimmy said that he really said no out of his respect to Eric, even though it was Eric. I never bought that story. Jimmy just wasn't quite ready to break from the very lucrative money he was making in the studio. So he suggested Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck got in. Then Jimmy joined in for a short period as the bass player. And then both of them were playing guitar. Barely a whisper. Jeff Beck had a girlfriend problem on the West Coast in the U.S., disappeared down the street one night. Jimmy was left with it, and from that moment on, started talking to Peter Grant. I'm really not happy here. I really want to do my own band. And he knew it because in 1966, he almost had that band with Jeff Beck. And we've talked about that in the past.
Yeah.
So Eric Clapton's all mixed up in a whole lot of bands, you know.
You want to know what the original connection between Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page was?
I know they knew each other before.
Compilation for Jimmy Page. There's he actually produced 4 John Mayall and Eric Clapton tracks.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was probably where they first got a connection.
You know, I did read that today. You'd go to Wikipedia to brush up on any loose ends you're not aware of when you are planning to be on a stream, or at least I do. I did read that. I kind of glossed over it. Thanks for bringing that up, Chris.
Just the
Yeah,
truth.
that's a very early production of Jimmy. We've talked about how Jimmy, by the time he got to Led Zeppelin and was doing that first album, and took the production duties and maintained it, we realized he was actually a very good engineer, not afraid to break rules, and producer, and would strap himself with really class A engineers. So with Chris bringing this up with Eric and that production, that kind of clarifies why that first album by Led Zeppelin is just so freaking amazing, especially when
Oh,
you consider it was recorded in 30
you know,
hours.
you know,
Only the
30 hours.
Beatles, Please
Yeah,
Please Me, was
yeah.
recorded quicker, and you have to include the 4 sides they included on that album that were already re-recorded. It winds up to be about 24 hours, not the 12 or 10 or whatever
No,
they
from
say,
time to
right?
time,
Yeah,
I'll reach back and say Led Zeppelin one's my favorite.
yeah.
I don't
Oh
really
God,
stand
yeah. All I have to do
for
is
any.
put Led Zeppelin on, one on,
Yeah,
and it is my
when
favorite.
it comes to Led
Yeah.
Zeppelin, I can't stay still on a favorite. But one more thing I wanted
Yeah,
to say about Eric Clapton, probably one of many more, but it was the emotional intensity on songs like Crossroads and White Rooms that basically set the standard for rock guitar playing.
yeah, yeah. That's a good
You know,
point, Bryce. Right.
Didn't I read someplace where Jimmy had done a bunch of engineering and such prior to Led Zeppelin for quite a few people? Am I wrong? I
Well, I
thought
know he
he'd
was on
gotten
a lot
pretty.
of sessions as a player, and when I read, I've read several books about him. The idea I got, Nick, is that all along, and yet we've just discussed a possible kind of what anomaly to what I've always known. But he was paying attention when he was in the studio. He was
Yeah,
known to pester the engineers. Why are you
right.
placing that mic there? Why not just put it over? Oh, because we found that the frequency response does this or that, right? And so
We
he
we
picked up
must
things, and he would
do.
ask producers why they made this
Yeah,
decision, that
we
decision.
we
So
must have read similar things because that's what I heard as well. That he had interest in all aspects of music, not just the
mhm.
production and the engineering, but you just about name it, any part of it, and it just captivated him.
Right. I agree. That's the Jimmy Page that I'm a fan of, you
Yep,
know.
absolutely.
Uh Now don't ask me about his darker sides and
No,
decisions, hookups he's made over the years and everything. Like I said, he's my number one favorite guitar player in rock and
yeah,
roll. He's also my one of my favorite producers in rock and roll. He's not in the top 3 or 4, but he would be in the top 10 for what he's done with Led Zeppelin.
yeah,
And I mean, he is a rock and roll hero of mine, but no rock and roll hero of mine has ever been uh, so holy that I wouldn't question. For example, we're
right,
talking
right,
about
sure,
Eric Clapton tonight. I was being very kind of tongue in cheek about calling it the Camelot tragedy, but
yeah,
what
being
a bunch
kind.
of bullshit from Eric Clapton. But see, I'm the kind of guy. I'm a modern day cowboy. All right,
Mhm.
don't take my horse, which is my truck,
Yep,
or I'll hang you. Don't cross my fence. Don't break into my house. Don't steal. And if
oh
I
yeah,
catch you nibbling around my back door, man, for my woman, I'll nip them off. Grape
cowboy up.
knife. That's why God created grape knives. All right.
Yep.
That's all right. You want to know what I'm all about,
I
Nick?
hear you. That's the way it
It's
should be.
that. Basically, you follow, and it doesn't matter whether you're Christian, Hindu, or whatever, or atheist. The Ten Commandments, which was all wrapped up in what Jesus said in his greater commandment when he wrapped up all of those, which the 10 commandments are all just a wrap up of the law. But the basic idea is honor whatever it is that you have spiritually. I know it says honor God, right? But whatever it is, you have to have a spiritual connection. Don't steal. Honor your parents. All right. Okay. Stay away from other women if you're a man, or man if you're a woman, or whatever your orientation is. You don't have a right to be a backdoor person. That is scum of humanity that does that.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to be messed. And I've made it clear. I've had friends who go, yeah. I had a friend who once said this, I think and he was just trying to joke with me, I think I'm at the point where I'm going to have an affair with a married woman. I turned to him, and this is a good friend of mine, Garth,
Yeah.
you know the man, all right? We've appeared on YouTube together, playing, right? And I said, you talking about my wife? Oh, I was pissed. Because you talking about my wife, brother, I'll send you out down the, all right? So I don't do it to you. If you leave
others.
your house, your belongings will not only be untouched, but if I see any shenanigans, I might save you those belongings. All right. It's just a real simple philosophy in life.
Yep.
Treat others like you want to be treated, right? And respect the
Amen.
fact that maybe the other guy isn't going to see your point of view, and just roll on down the freaking road. Okay,
Right.
It's and find something like music. What we're doing tonight is something that we can all agree on, whether we lean left, right, or somewhere in between, whether we believe in God or don't, or believe in this God or that God, or just a generalized spirituality. Whatever it is that floats your freaking boat, kudos to you.
Michael,
I do it my way.
I think everybody here completely agrees with that. Completely.
Yeah, well, I don't expect anybody to agree with me. It's just my philosophy.
No, but your philosophy is normal. Your philosophy is normal. Let me run through.
It was once considered normal. All right, Royce. It was once considered normal. There is a lot of people who would go, what a load of hogwash. Nolan just spouted off. And if that floats your boat, go for it, brother.
People reacting properly, that's all. I mean,
yeah.
Okay,
what
so I just want to fly through the rest of my albums, get them off my damn desk here. Okay, this is a pretty good album. This was brought up earlier. Let me see. Let me make this a little larger here. Okay, this 461 Ocean Boulevard was brought up earlier.
Bought it the second it came out.
Think of the name of it.
Yeah.
But it's got some
what was it? 461
on it. 461 Ocean Boulevard.
Yeah, I think I might have called it 431 or 831, something like that.
Yeah, but it's got let's see. We got I Shot the Sheriff here. Get Ready. I Can't Hold Out, Motherless Children, Please Be With Me. It's a cool album. I like this album.
I love the album. It's fine. It's a pop classic, but this is the beginning of what we were talking about before, which is this is the beginning of real beginning of the heavy period of pop Clapton, right?
Yeah.
Look at this guitar melting over that.
I prefer the blues.
Look at this. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah,
the guitar melting over the bench here.
Yeah, I love it.
Eric Clapton, Money and Cigarettes. That's classic.
Yep.
What do we got on here? Everybody ought to make a change. The Shape You're In, Ain't Going Down. I've got Rock and Roll Heart. I've got a Rock and Roll Heart. Man Overboard, Pretty Girl, Man in Love, Crosscut Saw, Slow Down Linda, and Crazy Country Hop. Okay. A little break from the blues there. Now these are you get these at Walmart, and they all play well. Sometimes they're colored vinyl, but it's just a compilation that they put together called Icon. I've got a Beach Boys icon.
Oh, how are those icons?
They're fine. I don't have a problem with it at all. They all play fine. But
are they best of albums or?
Yeah, pretty well.
Well, let me. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's right. They're like compilations of.
Okay, I've never bought one. That's why. Okay, thank you.
No. You're welcome. Okay, I shot the sheriff after midnight. And
Well,
incidentally,
that's a poor
I
time
shot
to shoot him.
I after midnight. Yeah. Hey, I shot the sheriff. Actually, brought reggae into the modern world.
Yeah.
Clapton's
Yeah, for the
credited.
most part, for most of us, I wasn't really
Credited with that.
aware that much of reggae until
No. I mean,
Clapton did it.
this song. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what they say. Knocking on heaven's door.
Mhm.
Wonderful
Yeah.
tonight. If your wife doesn't like Wonderful Tonight,
Yeah.
she'll be the only one I don't know. Cocaine. If you don't like the song
Ah,
Cocaine, if
yeah, that's one of his
See, the
ragers
way he keeps
during this
putting his
period.
song titles together, "Cocaine is wonderful tonight." Is that what he's trying to say? And "Don't
you
shoot
know,
the sheriff after midnight." I'm seeing something
No,
going on
you
here.
know,
actually, Nick, it's cocaine is wonderful tonight, and because it is, I'm going to shoot the sheriff
Shoot the
after
sheriff
midnight.
tonight.
well,
I love it.
yeah, she
What a
don't
gang we are.
lie, she don't lie. Cocaine.
Cocaine.
Da. Okay. Lay down Sally, Bell Bottom Blues, Let It Rain, and Layla.
Now, Let It Rain was off his first album, Eric Clapton, right? Is that the one? Because that's the very first album I bought of him.
Okay, well, I've
Because of Let It
other
Rain.
albums, but this is like I said, these are like greatest hits. These
Yeah.
icons.
Yeah, I need
And
to find that one.
I would
like the
recommend them.
titles.
I mean, they're good. They're good. Okay, now this is really different here. Okay,
Yeah.
the year is 2021. Eric Clapton's getting ready to go. Let's see. Let me look at the story here a bit on the back of the album cover. Eric Clapton's
Let's see the front of
getting
it real
ready.
quick. Yeah, okay.
Back.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
I apologize.
it's the lady in the balcony. Okay. Eric Clapton's getting ready to go do some shows at the Royal Albert Hall. And they got canceled due to the global pandemic, COVID. Okay. So determined to play, he brought the band together in the English countryside, set up a studio in the house. In the absence of a live audience, he decided to record the performances. This 2 LP set is the culmination of their sessions together at Cadre House, West Sussex, England. So
I gotta get that.
Two albums here, and let me
love
just
the whole concept.
Let me show you who's on this. Okay, you've got Eric Clapton, Chris Stanton, Nathan East, and Steve Gadd.
Yeah.
Steve Gadd. Okay, but the songs, "Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out," great blues song. "Golden Ring," "Black Magic Woman," "Man of the World," "Carrie," "After Midnight," "Bell Bottom Blues," "Key to the Highway," another great blues song, "River of Tears," "Rock Me Baby," "Believe in Life," "Going Down Slow," Layla, "Tears in Heaven," "Long Distance Call," "Bad Boy," and "Got My Mojo Working." And the only reason I'm going to pull one of these out is because they're colored vinyl, and I can't resist showing when they're colored vinyl. Well, first of all, it's a really nice
I want to see it.
I saved the hype sticker.
Yeah, I do that too. Is that the gold flavored? I got such a bad pressing of it. It was like getting splashed with cold water in my face.
No way.
I was so disappointed. Yeah, out of a lot of records that I've gotten from a certain person, I had to send it back.
Are you buying them at auction or something, or?
No, this was brand new from a retailer that we all know and love. But
look at these great sleeves.
I will buy that colored album because of that record right there in your hands.
Okay, let me show.
You know what, Nick? I'm not quite in groove with what you're hinting at.
What color is that?
It's called clear. It's called clear.
Okay,
but it's hardly clear.
I got a gold color one.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, the first ones that came out were gold. And
that one. That doesn't look clear. That looks like milk. It looks like a milk.
That might not have. Maybe that's what they went to after their.
You can't argue with the hype sticker.
No,
it says clear vinyl.
I might have to revisit that one.
Milky, but I want to show. Look at the artwork here.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I mean, that's a great picture.
It is honest too. A very honest picture. Yeah, he's not trying to.
Wait till you see the next one. Look here's the studio set up in the room
Oh.
inside the house.
Oh,
actually owning.
there's my Nirvana. There's my Nirvana. I want it.
And then then look at here's the guys, man, all sitting there ready to go.
Damn.
I mean, I just
Look
love
at
the
that.
art. I love the artwork on these
Yeah,
sleeves.
that picture of Eric is owning his age, which I thought was
Right.
just beautiful. I
Yep.
really thought that was great.
I
And
agree,
I
Nick.
loved
Yeah.
everything about it except for that stinking gold. Now that I know it's out in another color, I
Yeah.
might have to revisit that. But it was just, I put it on and it was
that's
such
too
a
bad.
poor.
That's too
Yeah.
bad because these guys really wanted to do this and they did a good job on it, you know.
Matter of fact, I gifted a friend of mine the CD set. I wouldn't send him the vinyl because, yeah, I knew you'd have it, right?
But
Yeah.
I love the concept in the middle of a time,
Yeah.
and we know Clapton's politics. He's more right wing, and didn't like the lockdown or anything that he saw as a lockdown anyway. And
Right.
so all of the artists, McCartney did it, Roger Waters did it. They all, and many others, they all went into lockdown mode, lockdown concerts, lockdown art. And this guy goes out into the country in the open air. Oh, I'm sorry, but, and he wasn't endangering anybody, no matter
No,
what anybody feels about those years that are of great debate. So it's not like he was insulting the other side of the political faction by doing this. He was still isolated, but he was free. He was outside. I love it. I got to get the album.
I'd like to add something to those lockdowns. As many inspiring, artistic artists that have the juice for creativity, which I do not have. They also some of them come with a lot of demons. And finding this work during the lockdown, putting their minds busy into doing a project like that, could have kept their worst, their
nature,
better demons at bay, where they were actually being productive versus there's always the slope in the other direction. So I was glad
except for artists like Roger Waters, who just found a new way to do the same old shitty platform he's been doing for the last 20 years, which I think is sad. I really do. It's like not every basement has to be a pulpit, No. Because some of the music that he did, I liked him. And as long as he wasn't going off on his half-cocked rhetoric in the song, I could tell what he was talking about in the lyrics, but I could also, like any well-written song, write my own narrative, which is what I do when I don't agree with the lyrics of a song. I write my own narrative, as we all do, right?
Yep.
So to me, I just love Eric Clapton's whole approach to it, just being the opposite of what we were and then creating, and yet not harming anyone by doing so. I just love it. I just absolutely love it.
Yeah, no, great, fantastic artist. I thought this was kind of a fun show tonight, and
absolutely,
I love being able to go over the lineage of who went where, after they left the Yardbirds,
Yeah.
I mean, we could make a whole show out of that. I mean, there's so many people that are involved. Look at
Caitlin brought up the Beatles' White Album, which contains one of my favorite Eric Clapton solos. When While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one he kind of traded favors with George Harrison with. Why George helped him write the song that he had to write for the.
How many pressings of that album do we have? How many pressings of the White Album do we have? Honestly.
Well, there's about 3 million of them. There's about 3 million of them, and I like to boast that my copy is in the top lowest 2% of numbers when you consider there's 3 million of them.
Wow.
Yes, I would venture to say there's at least 12 copies amongst the five of us. That's being generous.
Well,
now you have
lowballing.
You have to exclude me, Nick, because I've just recently got back into vinyl. Royce forced it on me by sending me, vinyl, And so I bought a turntable, and I'm in the midst of putting a
Nice.
system together.
It was all
And I've got
planned.
like 50 albums, so I haven't got to the White Album yet. I've been buying a lot of Zeppelin, you know.
Yeah, right. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of that to be had.
But I
Absolutely.
will
Oh yeah,
have one.
it's all
Yeah.
out there. It's all out there.
Yeah.
But I
Hey,
will
don't
have
worry,
one.
Dave, Hot
Wait,
Frog, good to see you here, buddy.
There's enough
Anyway.
of us to pick up your
I'll bet.
non-white albums just
I have
between the
no
four of us,
doubt.
I'm
Well,
sure.
when I bought my White Album, I said, "Do you guys have any White Albums?" He goes, "Yeah, we got 2." And I opened it up, and there's no poster, and there's no pictures. And I go, "Is this the only one? What does the other one look like?" He goes, "The other one's really cherry, but it'll cost you. I think it's a little over $100." And the poster was perfect. The individual photographs of their
Nice.
faces was perfect.
God,
And,
what a deal.
And the number
Yeah.
was, like I said, it was something like 70,000. But when you do the math on 3 million, it's in the lowest
Yeah.
2% of the numbers. So anyway, the guy says to me, "Okay, well, anytime you spend more than $100 here, every used album you buy from now on is 50% off." So
Oh.
I bought so many things
Nice.
there and saved big money. And even this guy, that's where I bought my Patient Number 9 in red splattered vinyl double album set. I paid $30-something for it.
Mom, James
There you
is
go.
teasing me.
Here we got the White Album with the Easter
Got one-
demos.
Right back here.
Yeah, and that's got the Escher demos, doesn't it?
And it's got
Yeah.
the poster inside too.
Yeah.
And the poster, yeah. But I
Mine's
fell in love
still
with
sealed.
I fell in love. Yeah, mine was still sealed till we did a show one night. And
Right.
Michael was here, and Nick, were you here too?
Yeah, we're
I
bad
know-
for getting you to open them sealed records.
Yeah. I know David was here too, Texas Audio, and everybody's
Yes.
trying to get me to open. I did open that one though, the White Album, and
Yeah,
I
you also
discovered for
opened
the
the-
first time that those Escher demos were in there.
Don't think
And
about it. Jake.
man,
Don't think about it.
I enjoy listening to those.
Oh, that's the
Yep.
best thing about the new, the newest
Album.
box set.
No, that's
What,
exactly right.
Those are hallowed sessions that people have been, pawning off really bad copy, scratchy
Yeah.
things for decades. Because you know what? Those sessions alone could have been released as the so-called Let It Be album.
Yeah.
If you really want real live recordings and stuff.
Right.
Oh, and they're brilliant. They're brilliant. I just love them.
No, they are, and they were made in George Harrison's home studio.
Right.
You know,
In a bungalow. In a bungalow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Buddy's just sitting around on the couch recording. those, you know?
And I know that they're also called. I think British would tell us that it's Escher. Actually, I just can't get over 4 or 5 decades calling them the Escher sessions.
Yeah.
So-
yeah.
But either way, they're the same recordings, man, and they're brilliant.
Yeah, I really like those. Yeah.
Now, has anybody noticed on the Eric Clapton Unplugged album when he sings Alberta, the melody is the
Alberta.
same. Alberta, Alberta,
Yeah.
where you been so long? Alberta, Alberta, where you been so long? Ain't had no lovin' since you've been gone. Now you listen to the song Karina, Karina. It's the
Right.
same melody. Have you
Oh
noticed
no,
that?
I can hear that. I can hear that in my head right
Now that you
now. You're
mention
right.
it,
Yeah.
The bastard.
I know. It's just like George Harrison with My Sweet Lord.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time out. We'll be right back. We'll be right back to James. But Eric brought up a great point. It's a good time right now for everybody to hit the like button.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Get me to 50, and the algorithm will be pushing me on all kinds of people that are looking for content. It'll help the
Yep.
show grow, and I'll be in everybody's debt big time. But that like button is hugely important. Thank you all. Okay, James, I didn't mean to interrupt. I look forward to your comments. Go for it. The floor is yours. I'm not gonna say words.
So now I want to tell you a story about that song "Wonderful Tonight." That song has special meaning to me because I worked at my friend's small little video store, and I was working alone one day, and I had on my favorite rock station in Montreal called Chaume FM, greatest rock station ever. And this girl was there with her friend, and she kind of had a crush on me. And I was standing there, and they were playing Wonderful Tonight on Show'em. And I'm standing there. I was serving her, giving her movies and whatever. And then she took my hand and she started singing "You Look Wonderful Tonight."
Oh, wow.
And I'll never forget that moment. And then on purpose, she left her card on the counter so I could go out the door to physically give it back to her, so she could hold my hand again.
That's
And
the power.
every time I hear it,
sweet.
I think of that day.
That's the power of music, James.
That's
the
a
power
great
of
story,
music.
but you've got our interest all peaked. What happened after that?
But I
None of your
I never got
business.
her number. I never asked her out, and I feel so
No.
bad.
Leave everybody guessing. Don't.
No, James doesn't want to tell the real story. He told me. He told me the next thing I knew, I was in the white room with white
black
curtains.
All right, you can meet this now.
I love it.
And you know who gave me this white album? Mazzy.
Okay, wait. Who gave it to you?
Mazzy.
Mazzy gave you a white album?
Yeah, he gave me that for free.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a very nice gift, dude.
Oh yeah.
That I love that album. It's great. That's a nice gift. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. That one you'll still be cherishing after the birthday card or whatever it was that came with it. Kind of gets put away in a briefcase or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, Lisa, I agree. I've been just sitting here sweltering.
Yeah, we'll be in the hundreds all week.
Oh God, here in the Central Valley in California, it's not uncommon to get 112 days on any given year anyway. But what we've gotten here just today, starting a little bit yesterday, but are like heavy clouds, and it still got up to 99 degrees, only the clouds contain water. The humidity went up.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it's taken me everything sometimes to produce my videos. I mean, oh God, I don't want to write it. I don't want to do the research. I need a day off. Yeah, but it's been 4 days since you've done one. People will think that you've died. You're old now. They expect it any moment.
Yeah, Dr. Rick, thank you. Dr. Rick's telling me I have 21 likes now.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick.
It may be a high in the middle of a live podcast. Thank you, Dr. Rick.
Yeah.
Nice.
I always appreciate, Eric Schultz, Dr. Rick. I'm going to miss a whole ton of people. Caitlin, who else?
Where are you going?
No, they keep the chat going. Yeah. These are people who show up week in, week out.
Yep.
And James, thank you. I can almost think of the one I'm thinking of.
Dr. Rick is a huge participant here.
Oh,
I
God,
really
yeah.
appreciate having him on.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's often making comments, a day before the, and there's others who do that. I'm one of the ones. I'll leave a comment a day or two before a stream, and it's you people are like the core of the core. Lisa always shows up. Dusty, and you're the heart of what's been going on here.
Dave, I am Hop Frog. He was co-hosted last week. Lisa's.
I love it when Dave's up.
You could have hopped on tonight, Lisa.
Yeah.
But anyway, Dave, I mean, I basically invite everybody. Piccolina, how are you? I love your kitty. You are the kitty. Sorry.
Piccolina, yeah. Always astute comments from all of you, you add to what we're talking about up here. And like us, you'll meander off subject. And that's kind of the flavor of the show, I think,
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, we try to stay when we've got a lot of ground to cover. We try to stay on topic. I try to herd people back in the best I can. But you know what? A lot of these shows don't have a topic. You know, I go to live streams and it's just kind of an open forum. You know, and that's okay too. But I like to have a topic. I like to have a show subject,
a starting point.
And if we get through talking about that, and there's still 20 or 30 minutes we're going to be on, then just open it up to whatever you want to talk about. You know,
and it's not been uncommon that we've kind of, as a collective group up on screen, kind of have come to the conclusion we've kind of worn out the theme real quick. And we're all good about, thinking on our feet, and we'll connect the main theme to something else. And often, the bulk of that stream will be just slightly different than what it was advertised for. So you never know what you're going to miss.
Okay. There is more on topic I've got to get back to for just a minute here. Okay, and that is I couldn't find my vinyl 2-album set of this. It's Eric Clapton Unplugged.
Oh yeah.
The MTV sessions. He came out with that song Tears in Heaven. His 4-year-old son Connor had fallen out of, I think, a 52-story building window. She was with, I think, his ex-wife and her girlfriend. It was her place or something like that. And of course, 52 stories. He died, and I can't even imagine. I can't imagine the guilt of the people that were taking care of him.
Yes, you can, Royce. We all know you can, and it's a great tragedy what happened to him, and it was life-changing.
Great tragedy. Yeah,
and we've seen a different Eric since. He's not quite the guy he was before, and that's what happens. We're all human, and we breathe, and the heart keeps pumping, and you have no choice but to carry on.
Do the hard part.
I've listened to these. I've had a CD of this since it came out, and that was a long time ago now. But I mean, track 1 is Sign. Then you've got Before You Accuse Me. What a classic song that is. Before You Accuse Me.
Versions.
Hey, Hey, Tears in Heaven, Lonely Stranger, Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out. But we're hearing them. Yeah, I mean, that's been on a couple of the other albums. I've read the track list, but you're hearing it all acoustic now, and that's completely different. Running on Faith, Layla, Walkin' Blues, love that song. Alberta. We were just talking about that, James.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Alberta. 11, San Francisco Bay Blues. Malted Milk Balls. I like them. Old Love, Rollin' and a Tumblin'. And anyway, that's the producer's names next. So we covered that. And
big selling album. It was one of the big albums. Back then.
Yeah. No, it was huge. It was my favorite. I mean, everybody went and did something Unplugged, and I love Nirvana Unplugged at MTV.
You walked into any barista or coffee shop, that thing was playing in the background every time. It didn't matter, Huge hit for him.
Huge hit. Now, we talked earlier about, like, Eric left the Yardbirds because they were getting away from blues. He just wanted to play blues. Wasn't interested in commercial success. He just wanted to play his blues. And then we went through all kinds of albums where he got completely away from the blues. So this was his reaffirmation that I'm a blues man from the cradle, baby.
Excellent.
This is Eric saying, I've been blues from the cradle. I don't care what you think about some of my songs, Lay down Sally and the.
Sorry, Royce.
That's okay.
I was just going to say, appropriately, we get a photograph of the crack of a back door. Oh, God.
Well, check this out. Okay, Blues Before Sunrise, third degree.
Third degree, yeah.
Reconsider, baby. Hoochie Coochie Man. That's a great song. Muddy Waters, Hoochie Coochie Man. 5 Long Years, I'm Tore Down. How Long Blues, Going Away Baby, Blues Leave Me Alone, Sinners in Prayer, Motherless Child, It Hurts Me Too, Someday After a While, Standing Round Crying, Drifting, and Groaning the Blues. So he came back and hit hard with an all blues album just to say, hey, it's all about the blues for me still. So anyway,
I think that came out just after his because he did the Unplugged and then he did Pilgrim, which was kind of his continuating.
Wasn't that kind of his last big solo album, complete package
Sort of.
that did extremely well?
yeah, I think you might be right about that.
Yeah.
Because it's got his most personal songs on there about his son, like My Father's Eyes.
My Father's Eyes, yeah.
Circus is the last thing the day before his son died, he took him to the circus.
Oh,
right.
That's his most personal song about it.
I always connect Pilgrim with the earlier pieces. That's the same Eric that's being wounded right before our eyes,
Yeah.
That whole period.
Well, that's the tour that I saw him on. I was 16 years old and I got to see
Oh
him.
my goodness.
Let's get Michael's avatar up here.
Right.
No, I'm kidding.
You talk about blues. After that, he started doing some
Beautiful room,
albums strictly about different blues artists. Like what I have here is Mr. Johnson. It's a whole album.
Robert Johnson. Oh yeah.
Whole album of Robert Johnson covers.
I had I don't know 2 or 3 CD set of all Robert Johnson songs, and I don't know what happened to him.
Wow. All 11 of them, or 12 or 30. I forget how many. There's just a handful, right?
There might, at least 12, I'd say.
Yeah.
Real trippy stuff though.
But all of them are essential. It's like I look at Robert Johnson's stuff as the skeleton of, and a few more of like him, as the skeleton of the body of rock and roll. You can't wrap muscle around it, or intestines, or skin, and hair, and eyes, and all that until you have that. And to me, that's what Robert Johnson always was,
And one thing about this, it's got a version of Traveling Riverside Blues. Not to be mistaken by Led Zeppelin's version.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'd like to listen to those side by side.
Hellhound on My Trail is probably the best one on there, though.
What is it?
Hellhound on My Trail.
Oh, okay. Hellhound.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like a prison break.
Yeah, nothing bluesy about that title, huh?
No, not at all. Especially considering it was written in, 28 or 29, I think?
Yeah, it was back in the 20s, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, folks, I think we're kind of winding down here.
Folks, I haven't said anything in the last couple of, streams. Reason I'm up and down is because of a bad back. So I'm sorry. I'm looking forward to not, disappearing all the time. But sometimes I just gotta get up and walk it off, guys.
Yep.
No, I hear you. You got to do that sometimes. You
yeah.
know what?
That.
I've never been to a chiropractor, and I've worked construction my whole life. And we have lifted stuff. I'm telling you, we've lifted stuff up to our ankles. Me and another guy on a 40-foot long wall with longer studs in it. And we got it to our ankle. We both turned purple, looked at each other, and put it back down, and went and got the rest of the crew off another job.
Yep, I don't think so.
But I mean, that's the kind of shit you do,
Yep.
And
Yep.
I've shattered.
Gotta get it done, and this is what we have to get it done.
Yeah, right.
Hey,
right.
It's like I said before, it's life, and you'll adjust accordingly,
Yep.
I'm grateful for every day that I'm here.
Amen.
And have a clarity of thought and a sense of wonder. I've always kept that 9-year-old in me. I keep him at bay, but folks, I believe that. Get in touch with your inner child. Don't let it run wild, because children don't know what they're talking about. But the sense of wonder, don't lose that. That's what we've been talking about all night long, is our wonderful and sense of wonder over how we felt when we first listened to these albums by this great artist.
I love what James Watson said that I put up on the screen here. Kiss Unplugged is when you yank the cord out of the holograms.
Oh, James and I are cut from the same jib. I can tell.
Hey, Michael, while we're on here, it's again a little off subject, but did you ever end up listening to that Van Halen album?
No, I haven't got to it yet, Chris.
No.
No, the reason is this week I had to put out like 3 or 4 videos, a ton of shorts, and I've got a series running on polls on my channel that are keeping me quite busy. And on top of that, I've been making some purchases with especially Led Zeppelin, but I'm up to about 50 albums now, which is not. Yeah, not bad, not bad at all.
No.
And a lot of Led Zeppelin, and so I got a colored vinyl, Nick, of Led Zeppelin live at the Fillmore West, brand new sparkly red, sealed.
Really?
And all I hear is crackling, and the only thing I can figure out is it is a recording of a crackly record, freshly minted. It sounds like that, but I'm still glad I have a recording of the show because it's an essential show. So, in answer, Chris, that's why I haven't yet. So
let me do a couple of quick shout outs to some people here. Joe 4771, we appreciate you joining us. Michael Chavez, good to see you here, brother.
Always,
and, so I think I'm caught up here. Just a few new people popped in.
There's
some great comments tonight. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to address Michael about his crackly record. I've gotten some. We all have. Investigate cleaning methods.
Yes, that was another thing I neglected to mention, and that's the next step. I put it away, and then Mirror to the Sky arrived, and so and then I got a nice sealed, it's a repressing copy of Led Zepp 3. So I've been busy, I've been busy, yeah.
So Michael Chavez, who is in that Nothing But the Blues tour you're going to see? You got tickets. Nothing But the Blues tour. Is that Joe Bonamassa, or is it some of the older blues guys? Or
I'd go see Joe anytime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. He rolls through here once or twice a year. I haven't seen him yet, though.
Yeah, me neither. And I'm guilty of that. And I'm such a fan of him. He's a master live, just like Clapton is today.
And he'll show up at small venues. I mean, all the blues guys used to show up at small venues. Yeah, I was in the Blues Society of San Luis Obispo for years, culminating in a blues cruise we all took to the Caribbean. All blues fans from all over the country. But
and shame on me for only having.
All of those venues are always small for those guys, and which means good seats and lower prices and everything else.
Yep.
I mean, I've seen Buddy Guy twice in concert. I've seen B.B. King, Junior Walker. I mean, I can't even remember all their names anymore. But I've seen a lot of them, and they were all good.
I used to host a blues festival here in my little town, and it was great experience. Lots of fun, wonderful blues from around the world: Chicago, Memphis, Mississippi Delta, Japan. That was a trip learning how to get them over here. Couldn't pay them. Weren't allowed to pay them. Their rules and laws were very specific, but they were incredible. One of our concerts, we had 11 harmonicas on the stage. Oh my goodness!
Oh my God, man!
Talk about a wild night.
Do I love?
I clapped my hands so hard on stage they were bloodied by the end of the night.
Yeah,
it was just out of this world.
When the heart is played right, it's like the sax, Nick. To me, the only lead guitar outranks it in sound in my head, but then sax, then a good blown harp. Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, I had to tell you this. Okay, the album I couldn't think of the name of earlier, the John Mayall album, was Turning Point, where he does the harmonica song as the last track, Room to Move. But
you were mentioning that last week too.
From the last track on side 1 to through the entire side 2 is some of the best rock saxophone playing you'll ever hear. And I mean, it's dominant in every song. It's just great. Turning Point by John Mayall.
the name of our blues festival was the Little Walter Music Festival. And if you know who Little Walter is,
Yeah, I know Little
he
Walter. Yeah, harp
Yep.
player.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep, he's the first guy to bring a harp and a microphone to marriage to his mouth.
Okay.
First guy to do it. Yep.
Wow.
He taught what's his name of the Stones how to play harp.
Brian? Or no, Mick.
Mick.
Mick,
Yeah.
yeah, he taught Mick
Yeah.
how to play harp. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
incredible sideman. He's actually in the Blues Hall of Fame as a sideman, the only sideman in. But he was not a good person. But boy, we had his daughter come to the festival every year. It was incredible.
Thank you, Dr. Rick. I appreciate that. I'm going to look into that too.
Yeah.
Because I've got a guy that's going to hold an album from me that's a live cut, but I want to make sure it's reasonably priced. I'll tell you why I'm so interested in Zeppelin rather than, you would think, because my favorite band is the Beatles. I'd be going out and getting all of them first. But for the most part, the Beatles aren't going nowhere. They'll get there. And I do have a few Beatle albums already. But I've got a Great Abbey Road. I've got an American Help. And no, not an American Help, but an American Hard Day's Night. Right. For collecting and all of that. I know they're there. I almost picked up the remix, just the single, except I kind of want to get the box, but it's so expensive of Revolver. But the reason is I started my channel talking about either the Beatles or Led Zeppelin for the most part, although it was always my intention to go much broader, but I did a lot of videos on them, and I got to tell you, I got my first burnout on Led Zeppelin after about my second year, and so I needed about a year to get off, and then when I started thinking of the vinyl, there's a lot of collectors that love to listen. For me, of course, I want to hear what Bonham does on this version. I want to hear Plant's wonderful rendition on a Tuesday night. But Jimmy, I'd like to get a bit of a collection of some of his live stuff and the true live stuff.
Well, the crazy thing is with some of these bands, it's like Jimi Hendrix had 3 studio albums. I have 23 Jimi Hendrix albums.
Yeah. No, and I was going to say that when you were talking about Cream, Royce, I was almost going to bring up, you think he's crazy about Cream. You ought to hear him talk about Hendrix. I could see myself with Zeppelin kind of going overboard a bit.
I know.
At an even pace, but I would like to look and extend and get kind of, a broader collection and become more of an aficionado than I am. I have the time. I don't have to show up at the restaurant, Nick. I'm sorry, you still have to do that. But you know what? If you love what you're doing, then more power to you. And if it feeds you in other ways, the working man, the man who starts his own business, built this country, folks.
I have a turntable. When we're slow, I have a turntable now in the restaurant.
Oh, you do?
So, so I have a dual that's been redone completely by Fix My Dual, who really knows his stuff. It's a Dual 1219, and it sounds really good. Everything works as if it's new. A 1969 Dual. The German knew their stuff.
Wow.
Good stuff.
German engineering.
Yeah, so when the place is empty, me and the missus, she's into it as well. We just go through, is it rock or jazz today? What do you want to hear in the big room? Because it's a 3,500, 4,000 square foot room. So, so it adds a spaciousness to it. But I missed something earlier, and I had a question. Where did Santana rank as far as guitarists? Or did he not?
He's in my top 10.
Yeah, mine too. That's why I
Yeah.
asked. I missed that part.
Yeah. Yeah,
Let me
he wasn't.
tell
I
you.
don't think he was in the top 10. And
I'm gonna find it here in a minute, but I don't think he was in the top 10 either.
he's
Okay,
not only
that,
a fabulous guitar player. All right, I like to. He's one of those fast, great riffers who also has a wonderful vocabulary. He's the major force that established what I consider to be almost Latino rock.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that makes him a genre establisher.
but
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's another check off the list that I usually
go with
kind of.
that.
Santana's number 20.
Oh,
Santana's
too
number
low,
20.
way too low.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see, a list I would respect where he'd be number 12, maybe, just barely missing the
Well,
top 10.
I
Yeah,
totally love Santana too.
He's, for
Uh,
me, he is, I think I got, in my last video, the videos, they're the ones, and then I try to kind of
Yeah.
remember, but I think he's number 6 on my
Nice.
list. So he's very
For
high.
videos, yeah. He puts so much emotion into, his play that he just
Right.
sucks me in, and I'm a sucker for
I just found
absolutely.
I just found Zappa in here at 20 22 with the song Willie the Pimp. I've been kind of enjoying Zappa lately. I'm really getting into his crazy sense of humor.
Hey, Nick, I agree with you on Santana just pulling you in. I've seen him twice, and yeah, you can just feel the emotion pouring out of his guitar when he's playing.
Oh yeah,
It's as if it's its own entity. That guitar just comes alive as if to say, "I'm my own entity."
That
and here I am.
that guitar really speaks to you when Santana plays.
Yeah.
That tone he gets, it's just amazing.
He's one of the few guitarists, and there's some that I rank slightly higher than him that don't have this, and this is it. And when you hear Jimi Hendrix, all you have to do is hear him play. You're not even anything but a casual fan. You know you're listening to Jimi Hendrix. Same thing with Carlos. You always know that's Santana.
No two ways about that.
Yeah,
one of my favorite Santana stories is they showed up at Woodstock, and the only reason Santana was invited to Woodstock is Jerry Garcia got him in because Santana opened for Jerry Garcia in the Grateful Dead. They were all from the Bay Area, but they were all they all took a lot of LSD too.
Yeah, this is a great story.
I know. Yeah. So Santana, they're getting off the plane and Jerry Garcia yells, Carlos, come over here. And they say, oh, that's Jerry. They all went over there and he goes, hey, Carlos, you guys want some acid? And Carlos says, no, Jerry, we don't know when we're going on, man. We'd be afraid to take it and then get called on. And he goes, oh, don't worry about it. I'm not going on for about 7 or 8 hours. And you guys are way after me. They go, oh, yeah. They take some acid. They get over to the venue. They're in a room. It's about an hour since they took it. They're just really starting to fry hard. They get a knock on the door. Santana, you're up. Because a bunch of the acts in front of them got delayed because the traffic was so bad. People were abandoning their cars and just walking in.
Yeah,
and I'm not talking about a couple of feet. I'm talking miles. So it was
that's why they had to fly the artist in.
Yeah, it was completely helicopter. Yeah, but it was completely clogged, and people still weren't getting in. Helicopters.
There you go, Catlin.
But anyway, so I thought that was a funny story. So these guys get up there, and anybody that's watched Woodstock was got to agree with me about the performance they put in. It was just, it was like a show-stealing performance.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. But I will say this: listen to the vocals. You can tell they're off. Especially Carlos when he steps up. He's no great shakes of a singer anyway, but you could tell there's some ragged edges with the vocals, but not. Carlos was plugged. He was plugged, but he's flying high and connecting. He's like a tree. He's like an ant from J.R.R. Tolkien. The guitar grew from his withered fingers. And he's so plugged into that. and I think the chemical enhancement may have even made it a greater piece of guitar work for that very reason.
And how about the drums? I mean, everybody.
Oh, well, the whole band musically was hot. Only criticism was the vocals, but consider the circumstances, and it's a miracle performance.
My recollection,
there were people.
My recollection is he doesn't remember playing at all.
I thought I heard that somebody bring that up too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's been quoted that he has no recollection of starting off that night.
I gotta tell Dr. Rick, I'm very jealous here. Dr. Rick's son just gave him 100+ Hendrix studio boot tracks that I'd never heard of. That's incredible. Wow. Oh my God. That could very well be some Grail stuff right there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And so Royce will go to Betty now and explain his plight, and she will just look him straight in the eye and go, "Suffer."
No, that's exactly what she do. That's exactly what she do.
That's what Kimberly would do. Suffer.
Oh, look at this. Hop Frog was at Guitar Center tonight. I sold a six-string bass, a few straps, and possibly an orange 20-watt amp. Funny thing, I was just browsing, not an employee. I tell you, nothing was more fun. I don't know what it's like today, but going into the Guitar Center on Sunset Boulevard down in Hollywood, and it was like, everybody was covered with piercings and hair, and you couldn't even see their faces, and everybody's standing around trying out a brand new, $3,000 guitar. And I'm like,
right.
Wow.
Usually mimicking some variation of Eddie Van Halen and new metal music and death goth music and goth death music. And all right. I like good metal, but I'm not a metal aficionado and probably never will be. I love Metallica, and if you're going to call Black Sabbath metal, I love Black Sabbath,
and I love Metallica too. I was just going through my albums earlier today, my Metallica albums, but there's some metal stuff that I just skipped and never got involved with, bought any of their albums or anything.
Yeah. Hey, Eric, I remember that. I've watched it many times over the decades. Yeah, they were all higher than a kite, and boy, they had drank the Kool-Aid, huh? Yeah. That was wonderful. It was like watching 50,000 Massinian troops on the hill outside Rome, man. That was David Crosby, man, going on.
Dr. Rick, thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Hey, so listen, guys, I think we're gonna sign her off now. I'm actually caught up with the chat too, but so first of all, I want to thank the chat. I really appreciate you guys.
Yep.
The way you come in, and you don't just come in, but you guys participate, and that really makes the show. If there's anybody out there yet that hasn't hit the thumbs up, please do.
I just checked, Royce. You're at 30 already. You got 30
and subscribe if you really want to show some love.
All right. Hey, folks, thanks so much. And let some people know he only needs 10 more for a bump. Remember what we were talking about last week?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to thank, Michael and James and Novice Nick and Chris Elliott. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all, but thank you, Nick, for showing up. But you always have a bit of support.
Bye, Jeff Davidson. Anytime, guys. And that's what's going on in Royce's world today. Good night, everybody.
Good night,
everybody.